Okay. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you?
Fine, ma'am. What about you?
I'm also good, thank you. Okay, so a very good evening to all the students present in the session and to all the students who have joined us on live on YouTube. So I welcome you all and I thank you all for joining our sessions. So today we are going to practice listening module. And so listening module is considered to be the easiest of all the modules, but still some students face some problem with this module also. So today I'm here to clear all your doubts and let you know some of the tips and tricks that will help you to get better marks in the listening. So first of all, and before starting with the practice session, let me again remind you of our Telegram community in which you will get all the links for the sessions like that, which is happening today. And you will get all the study material, you will get the practice exercises, and also you will be updated about the situations and the conditions about the all the updates that are happening for your go abroad journey. And also we have an expert counselor that will guide you on your go abroad journey and they will evaluate your file and they can clear your all your doubts. Okay, so before starting with the listening module, I would like to ask all the students in the session that what problems do they face in the listening, because this is my first practice session of the listening module with all of you. So first of all, I would like to know from you that what problems do you face. Okay, so there are some new students also. Priya, hi Priya, how are you?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, ma'am, you say.
I'm also good. So I welcome you to the session and please stay tuned. We are going to have a practice session. Okay. So one by one, please tell me what problems do you face in the listening module? Bhavan, let's start from you.
Ma'am, fourth section.
So what problem basically do you have while solving the questions? क्या प्रॉब्लम आती है आपको?
Fourth section समझ नहीं आता अच्छे से.
Okay, ठीक है. So we'll work on that. Okay, so next is Priya. You tell me what problems do you face? Yes, Priya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I have problem with big MCQs as well as maps.
Okay, तो आज हम मैप्स भी करेंगे, एमसीक्यूज भी करेंगे. सो आई विल टेल यू सम ऑफ द थिंग्स जो कि आप कंसिडरेशन में रख सकते हो, और वो जो मैं आपको टिप्स बताने वाली हूँ वो आपके हर क्वेश्चन में आपको हेल्पफुल रहेंगे. सो इट्स नॉट लाइक स्पेसिफिकली कि मुझे ये क्वेश्चन नहीं समझ में आ रहा या मुझे ये क्वेश्चन नहीं समझ में आ रहा. सो ऑल द क्वेश्चंस हैव द सेम ट्रिक, एंड आई वोंट से इट्स अ ट्रिक बिकॉज ट्रिक इज द शॉर्टकट. तो आपको कभी भी शॉर्टकट नहीं यूज करना फॉर आईएलटीएस. So you have to always understand, like I tell you in all the modules, चाहे वो speaking है चाहे वो writing है. So I'll tell you in all the modules that please try to understand the thing rather than using the tips and tricks. Please mute yourself, everyone. Please, everyone, mute yourself. Okay. So I was telling you that there are no tips and tricks for anything. It's just based on your understanding, that how well are you able to understand the particular thing. And it also depends that it's quite understandable that you will not be able to understand each and every word, because some words are very typical to some specific type of language or some specific type of a topic. So I understand that you will not be able to understand all the words. So what we can do, we can try to understand the sentence as a whole, that what does they mean, what they mean to say by speaking this sentence. So please try to understand what are they trying to tell you. If you understand, then it will be very, very easy for you. Okay, moving forward. Yes, Manpreet. Hi, Manpreet. Hi, Manpreet, are you there?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Fine, ma'am.
Okay, so you tell me that what problems do you face while doing listening module?
MCQ, the ma'am, fourth section.
Okay, MCQ. So most of the students have a problem in doing MCQs. So MCQs, I'll tell you a simple way of doing MCQs. So when they give you some time to read the questions, so you don't read the options. You don't have to read the options, because when you read the options, you get confused. So you just read the questions, that what are they asking you, and then you listen the audio, and then you see that which option is correct. So I would say that instead of doing it side by side, at listening to the audio and ticking the options, you try to keep everything in your mind. You try to keep everything in your mind, and you try to learn the things that they are telling you, and listen the thing as a story. So try to listen the audio as a story. When you listen something as a story, you tend to learn it faster. So when we are not when we tell someone something as a story, you will understand it better and you will learn it faster. So please don't try to just do everything side by side. Like, you're listening the audio, you are reading the options. If you do it side by side, then you will fumble, or you will not be able to catch up, and you will, if you miss one question, you will miss all the questions. Okay, so we'll, in the practice session, I'll tell you more about how to do the MCQs. Okay, next is Ramesh. Hi, good evening. So can you tell me what problems do you face while doing the listening module? Okay, so we have many new students here. So anybody who wants to tell something, any confusion, any problem they face while doing the listening module, they can just raise their hand and let me know what problem do you face. Yes, Arsh, Manpreet, anybody who wants to tell me what problems do you face while doing the listening module? Yes, Arsh, good evening. Are you there in the session? Okay, MCQ. So you also face the same problem. So Ramesh, are you there? Okay. So I think most of the students are facing the problem in the MCQs and map. So, okay. So I would request all the students to please grab a pen and a paper. So because we're going to do the practice session of listening. So it will be conducted in the same manner as it happens in your exam. So it will be done in the same way. So please give.
ਔਥਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਤੀਜੇ ਸੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਕੰਫਿਊਜ਼ਨ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ।
Can you please repeat?
ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਾ ਔਥਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਮਤਲਬ ਉਹਨੇ ਯਾਰ, ਹਾਂਜੀ
ठीक है
ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆਉਂਦੀ।
ओके सो अगर आपको ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आता है, तो आपको लिसनिंग पे ध्यान देना है कि वो बोल क्या रहे हैं. सो ऐसा कई बार होता है कि हमें उनका एक्सेंट समझ में नहीं आता कि वो क्या बोल रहे हैं, बिकॉज दे स्पीक इन अ ब्रिटिश एक्सेंट. So when they're speaking in a British accent, we are not able to understand sometimes what are they trying to say. So what we can do is we can try to listen them very carefully, and we can just try to match what they are saying. Okay. So hi Tarun, good evening. Okay, so we are going to do the listening module today. So do you want to tell me what problems do you face by doing the listening module?
In MCQs.
Okay, so I think all the students face problem in MCQ only. So we did the practice of MCQ in writing, and I think I told the same technique as I'm telling for listening, that do not read the options, just read the question and try to find the answer without reading the options. And I think it helped a lot of students. So try to apply this technique in listening also. Do not read the options, just listen to the audio very carefully. And one very useful thing for the listening is you have to listen the audio very carefully. If you have listened the audio carefully and you have learned, or you have some things in your mind that this is what they were talking about and this is what they were saying, so I think you will be able to do all the questions. Okay, so I would request all the students to get a pen and a paper, and we are going to start the practice now. And please show me a thumbs up if you are if you have the pen and the paper, and I'll share my screen in the meantime. Okay, so for all those who are new to the IELTS preparation, let me tell you some of the rules of IELTS listening. So we have 40 questions in IELTS listening, and they are divided into 4 sections. So the questions in each section can vary. It may be 10, it may be 8, it may be 5, it may be 4. And the first thing that you have to do when you get your question paper is you have to read the instructions of the section A. So can you read the instructions, which is write one word and or a number for each answer. And if you are not obeying these instructions, so that can be so that it can lead to the incorrect answer. Okay, so please read these instructions very carefully. You have to write one word and a number. So you can write one word and a number also, and you can write one word or a number also. So anybody having any doubt in the instructions, because I see many students who are not able to understand the instructions, and most of their questions are wrong because of their misunderstanding of the instructions only. Anybody who's not able to understand the instructions, please let me know. Okay, so shall we begin now? Please show me a thumbs up if you are ready. We'll begin. Okay. So I'll just play the audio.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good, no, perfect words that make your writing sharp or explicit or excellent or...
Test 4. This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to part 1.
Sorry, you were saying something. Are you able to hear the voice? Audio sun rahi hai sab? Was everyone?
Full voice.
Yes, I think it's full from my side. I'll check it once again. So were you able to listen to the audio?
आवाज कट कट कर आ रही है, थोड़ी सी कभी हटी जाती है.
Okay, so I would suggest you all to first of all plug in your earphones, taki the voice is not echoing. And so please once tell me once you're ready with all the things, your pen, paper, earphones, everything. From my side, the voice is fine. It's coming fine. It's on high and it's not even buffering.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, you need to share the audio, share sound. When you share the screen, you will see an option by clicking on the 3 dots.
Okay,
so you will get to share sound. So आप वहाँ पे कर दो.
Okay, so I'll play the audio again. And please let me know if you're able to hear it.
There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only.
Is it fine for everyone now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, let me instruct every one of you how to do the IELTS listening exam, because many of you must be new to it. So first of all, the audio will play for first 10 questions, because in first section there are just 10 questions. So I have told you the instructions that you have to write one word and a number, or one word or a number. So that's your choice and according to the question. So first they will give you some time to read the questions. So you read as many questions as you can, because it's not possible to read 10 questions in 10 or 20 seconds, but you try to read as many as you can. And when you are listening to the audio, try to learn the audio as a story. And do not try to write your answers side by side, because if you are wasting your time in writing the answer side by side, then you will skip on the audio. And if one question is skipped, you will skip all the questions. So try to understand and learn the audio as a story, and you can fill your answers afterwards, or you can write some hints. Suppose if I have the answer, suppose my answer is city garden. So I can just write I can write very roughly city garden. Like I will write just city, because then I will be able to remember that what was the answer. You need not to write the whole answer, because we don't have much time in listening. And after that, you will get some time to transfer your answers to the main sheet. So while listening, you just have to very roughly write the answer so that you can remember afterwards. Okay, so any confusion, any problem? Okay, I'll share my screen once again.
The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to try the listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to part 1. Part 1. You will hear a man phoning the owner of a holiday cottage. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello?
Oh, hello. I was hoping to speak to Jack Fitzgerald about renting a cottage.
I'm his wife Shirley and we own the cottages together, so I'm sure I can help you.
Great. My name's Tom. Some friends of ours rented Granary Cottage from you last year and they thought it was great. So my wife and I are hoping to come in May for a week.
What date did you have in mind?
The week beginning the 14th, if possible.
I'll just check. I'm sorry, Tom, it's already booked that week. It's free the week beginning the 28th, though, for 7 nights. In fact, that's the only time you could have it in May.
Oh, well, we could manage that, I think. We'd just need to change a couple of things. How much would it cost?
That's the beginning of high season, so it'd be £550 for the week.
Ah, that's a bit more than we wanted to pay, I'm afraid. We've budgeted up to £500 for accommodation.
Well, we've just finished converting another building into a cottage, which we're calling Chervil Cottage.
Sorry, what was that again?
Chervil. C-H-E-R-V for Victor, I-L.
Oh, that's a herb, isn't it?
That's right. It grows fairly wild around here. You could have that for the week you want for £480.
Okay, so could you tell me something about it, please?
Of course. The building was built as a garage. It's a little smaller than Granary Cottage.
So that must sleep 2 people as well.
That's right. There's a double bedroom.
Does it have a garden?
Yes, you get to it from the living room through French doors, and we provide 2 deck chairs. We hope to build a patio in the near future, but I wouldn't like to guarantee it'll be finished by May.
Okay.
The front door opens onto the old farmyard, and parking isn't a problem. There's plenty of room at the front for that. There are some trees and potted plants there.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
What about facilities in the cottage? It has standard things like a cooker and fridge, I presume.
In the kitchen area, there's a fridge freezer, and we've just put in an electric cooker.
Is there a washing machine?
Yes, there's also a TV in the living room, which plays DVDs too. The bathroom is too small for a bath, so there's a shower instead. I think a lot of people prefer that nowadays anyway.
It's more environmentally friendly, isn't it? Unless you spend half the day in it.
Exactly.
What about heating? It sometimes gets quite cool at that time of year.
There's central heating, and if you want to light a fire, there's a stove. We can provide all the wood you need for it. It smells so much nicer than coal, and it makes the room very cosy. We've got one in our own house.
That sounds very pleasant. Perhaps we should come in the winter to make the most of it.
Yes, we find we don't want to go out when we've got the fire burning. There are some attractive views from the cottage which I haven't mentioned. There's a famous stone bridge. It's one of the oldest in the region, and you can see it from the living room. It isn't far away. The bedroom window looks in the opposite direction and has a lovely view of the hills and the monument at the top.
Well, that all sounds perfect. I'd like to book it, please. Would you want a deposit?
Yes, we ask for 30% to secure your booking, so that'll be £144.
And when would you like the rest of the money?
You're coming in May, so the last day of March, please.
Fine.
Excellent. Could I just take your details so that I can...
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 1.
Okay, so everyone done with the section A? I think it was quite easy. It was a basic level. Okay, so ready for the section B? Okay, so I'll share my screen.
Part 2. You will hear a town councillor reporting on the local transport network and a recreation facility. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Right, next on the agenda we have traffic and highways. Councillor Thornton.
Thank you. Well, we now have the results of the survey carried out last month about traffic and road transport in the town. People were generally satisfied with the state of the roads. There were 1 or 2 complaints about potholes, which will be addressed, but a significant number of people complained about the increasing number of heavy vehicles using our local roads to avoid traffic elsewhere. We'd expected more complaints by commuters about the reduction in the train service, but it doesn't seem to have affected people too much. The cycle path that runs alongside the river is very well used by both cyclists and pedestrians since the surface was improved last year, but overtaking can be a problem, so we're going to add a bit on the side to make it wider. At some stage, we'd like to extend the path so that it goes all the way through the town, but that won't be happening in the immediate future. The plans to have a pedestrian crossing next to the post office have unfortunately had to be put on hold for the time being. We'd budgeted for this to be done this financial year, but then there were rumours that the post office was going to move, which would have meant there wasn't really a need for a crossing. Now they've confirmed that they're staying where they are, but the Highways Department have told us that it would be dangerous to have a pedestrian crossing where we'd originally planned it, as there's a bend in the road there, so that'll need some more thought. On Station Road, near the station and level crossing, drivers can face quite long waits if the level crossing's closed, and we've now got signs up requesting them not to leave their engines running at that time. This means pedestrians waiting on the pavement to cross the railway line don't have to breathe in car fumes. We've had some problems with cyclists leaving their bikes chained to the railings outside the ticket office, but the station has agreed to provide bike racks there.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
So next on the agenda is proposals for improvements to the recreation ground. Councillor Thornton again.
Well, since we managed to extend the recreation ground, we've spent some time talking to local people about how it could be made a more attractive and useful space. If you have a look at the map up on the screen, you can see the river up in the north and the community hall near the entrance from the road. At present, cars can park between the community hall and that line of trees to the east, but this is quite dangerous for pedestrians, so we're suggesting a new car park on the opposite side of the community hall, right next to it. We also have a new location for the cricket pitch. As we've now purchased additional space to the east of the recreation ground, beyond the trees, we plan to move it away from its current location, which is rather near the road, into this new area beyond the line of trees. This means there's less danger of stray balls hitting cars or pedestrians. We've got plans for a children's playground, which will be accessible by a footpath from the community hall and will be alongside the river. We'd originally thought of having it close to the road, but we think this will be a more attractive location. The skateboard ramp is very popular with both younger and older children. We had considered moving this up towards the river, but in the end we decided to have it in the southeast corner near the road. The pavilion is very well used at present by both football players and cricketers. It will stay where it is now, to the left of the line of trees and near to the river, handy for both the football and cricket pitches. And finally, we'll be getting a new notice board for local information, and that will be directly on people's right as they go from the road into the recreation ground.
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 2. Part 3. You will hear 2 urban planning students discussing bike-sharing schemes in different cities. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Now that we've done all the research into bike-sharing schemes in cities around the world, we need to think about how we're going to organise our report.
Right. I think we should start by talking about the benefits. I mean, it's great that so many cities have introduced these schemes where anyone can pick up a bike from dozens of different locations and hire it for a few hours. It makes riding a bike very convenient for people.
Yes, but the costs can add up, and that puts people on low incomes off in some places.
I suppose so. But if it means more people in general are cycling rather than driving, then because they're increasing the amount of physical activity they do, it's good for their health.
OK, but isn't that of less importance? I mean, doesn't the impact of reduced emissions on air pollution have a more significant effect on people's health?
Certainly in some cities, bike sharing has made a big contribution to that, and also helped to cut the number of cars on the road significantly.
Which is the main point.
Exactly. But I'd say it's had less of an impact on noise pollution because there are still loads of buses and lorries around.
Right.
Shall we quickly discuss the recommendations we're going to make?
In order to ensure bike-sharing schemes are successful?
Yes.
OK. Well, while I think it's nice to have really state-of-the-art bikes with things like GPS, I wouldn't say they're absolutely necessary.
But some technical things are really important, like a fully functional app, so people can make payments and book bikes easily. Places which haven't invested in that have really struggled.
Good point. Some people say there shouldn't be competing companies offering separate bike-sharing schemes, but in some really big cities, competition's beneficial. And anyway, one company might not be able to manage the whole thing.
Right. Deciding how much to invest is a big question. Cities which have opened loads of new bike lanes at the same time as introducing bike-sharing schemes have generally been more successful. But there are examples of successful schemes where this hasn't happened. What does matter, though, is having a big publicity campaign.
Definitely. If people don't know how to use the scheme or don't understand its benefits, they won't use it. People need a lot of persuasion to stop using their cars.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Shall we look at some examples now and say what we think is good or bad about them?
I suppose we should start with Amsterdam, as this was one of the first cities to have a bike-sharing scheme.
Yes. There was already a strong culture of cycling here. In a way, it's strange that there was such a demand for bike sharing, because you'd have thought most people would have used their own bikes.
And yet it's one of the best used schemes. Dublin's an interesting example of a success story.
It must be because the public transport system's quite limited.
Not really. There's no underground, but there are trams and a good bus network. I'd say price has a lot to do with it. It's one of the cheapest schemes in Europe to join.
But the buses are really slow. Anyway, the weather certainly can't be a factor.
No, definitely not. The London scheme's been quite successful.
Yes, it's been a really good thing for the city. The bikes are popular and the whole system is well maintained, but it isn't expanding quickly enough.
Basically, not enough's been spent on increasing the number of cycle lanes. Hopefully that'll change.
Yes. Now, what about outside Europe?
Well, bike-sharing schemes have taken off in places like Buenos Aires.
They built a huge network of cycle lanes to support the introduction of the scheme there, didn't they? It attracted huge numbers of cyclists where previously there were hardly any.
An example of good planning.
Absolutely. New York is a good example of how not to introduce a scheme. When they launched it, it was more than 10 times the price of most other schemes.
More than it costs to take a taxi. Crazy. I think the organisers lacked vision and ambition there.
I think so too. Sydney would be a good example to use. I would have expected it to have grown pretty quickly here.
Yes. I can't quite work out why it hasn't been an instant success like some of the others. It's a shame, really.
I know. OK, so now we've thought about all those...
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You will hear part of an environmental science lecture about a large bird called the dodo, which is now extinct. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
One of the most famous cases of extinction is that of a bird known as the dodo. In fact, there's even a saying in English, as dead as the dodo, used to refer to something which no longer exists. But for many centuries, the dodo was alive and well, although it could only be found in one place, the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. It was a very large bird, about 1 metre tall, and over the centuries it had lost the ability to fly, but it survived happily under the trees that covered the island. Then, in the year 1507, the first Portuguese ships stopped at the island. The sailors were carrying spices back to Europe and found the island a convenient stopping place where they could stock up with food and water for the rest of the voyage, but they didn't settle on Mauritius. However, in 1638, the Dutch arrived and set up a colony there. These first human inhabitants of the island found the dodo birds a convenient source of meat, although not everyone liked the taste. It's hard to get an accurate description of what the dodo actually looked like. We do have some written records from sailors and a few pictures, but we don't know how reliable these are. The best-known picture is a Dutch painting in which the bird appears to be extremely fat, but this may not be accurate. An Indian painting done at the same time shows a much thinner bird. Although attempts were made to preserve the bodies of some of the birds, no complete specimen survives. In the early 17th century, 4 dried parts of a bird were known to exist. Of these, 3 have disappeared, so only one example of soft tissue from the dodo survives, a dodo head. Bones have also been found, but there's only one complete skeleton in existence. This single dodo skeleton has recently been the subject of scientific research, which suggests that many of the earlier beliefs about dodos may have been incorrect. For example, early accounts of the birds mention how slow and clumsy it was. But scientists now believe the bird's strong knee joints would have made it capable of movement which was not slow, but actually quite fast. In fact, one 17th century sailor wrote that he found the birds hard to catch. It's true that the dodo's small wings wouldn't have allowed it to leave the ground, but the scientists suggest that these were probably employed for balance while going over uneven ground. Another group of scientists carried out analysis of the dodo's skull. They found that the reports of the lack of intelligence of the dodo were not borne out by their research, which suggested the bird's brain was not small, but average in size. In fact, in relation to its body size, it was similar to that of the pigeon, which is known to be a highly intelligent bird. The researchers also found that the structure of the bird's skull suggested that one sense which was particularly well developed was that of smell. So the dodo may also have been particularly good at locating ripe fruit and other food in the island's thick vegetation. So it looks as if the dodo was better able to survive and defend itself than was originally believed. Yet, less than 200 years after Europeans first arrived on the island, they had become extinct. So what was the reason for this? For a long time it was believed that the dodos were hunted to extinction, but scientists now believe the situation was more complicated than this. Another factor may have been the new species brought to the island by the sailors. These included dogs, which would have been a threat to the dodos, and also monkeys, which ate the fruit that was the main part of the dodo's diet. These were brought to the island deliberately. But the ships also brought another type of creature, rats, which came to land from the ships and rapidly overran the island. These upset the ecology of the island, not just the dodos, but other species too. However, they were a particular danger to the dodos because they consumed their eggs. And since each dodo only laid one at a time, this probably had a devastating effect on populations. However, we now think that probably the main cause of the bird's extinction was not the introduction of non-native species, but the introduction of agriculture. This meant that the forest that had once covered all the island and that had provided a perfect home for the dodo was cut down so that crops such as sugar could be grown. So, although the dodo had survived for thousands of years, suddenly it was gone.
That is the end of part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 4. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.
Okay, so I hope you all have done your test. Is everyone done with their test? So I'll share the answer key and you please see how many answers are correct and you tell me your score. I'll share my screen and I'll show you the correct answers. Please match your answers with the correct answers. So this is the list of all the correct answers. Please everyone mark your sheets and let me know how much you scored.
Ma'am, 26.
Okay, good. So you have to tell me that where did you do the mistake and where were you finding the difficulty? Yes, tell me. So कौन से questions wrong हुए आपके?
Ma'am, map part.
Okay. और?
Ma'am, last में भी 3 है, 31 to 40 में 3.
Okay. So tell me that why were you not able to do them correctly? आपको क्या लगता है कि what was the problem? आपको कहाँ पे problem आई?
मैम ज्यादा वही क्वेश्चंस है, एक तो मैप और एक जहाँ पे नेम लिखे हुए थे उसको मैचिंग जो होती है ना वो ज्यादा है.
ओके तो जो मैप के क्वेश्चंस हैं जब हम मैप सो दिस इज फॉर एवरीवन क्योंकि आई हैव लिसन दिस लॉट की जो मैप के क्वेश्चंस हैं एवरीवन फेस द प्रॉब्लम. सो मैप की जो डिफिकल्टी लेवल है दैट वेरीज अ लॉट. कई तो बहुत ही इजी होते हैं, कई बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट होते हैं, पर जो उनको करने की अप्रोच है दैट इज सेम. कि आपको क्वेश्चन नहीं पढ़ने, यू डोंट हैव टू रीड द क्वेश्चंस. So you don't have to read the questions, you have to understand the map. आपको क्वेश्चंस नहीं पढ़ने, आपको मैप को अंडरस्टैंड करना है कि उन्होंने आपको क्या ऑडियो में बोल रहे हैं और मैप में क्या उन्होंने दिया हुआ है. अगर आप क्वेश्चंस पढ़ोगे दैट्स ऑफ नो यूज क्योंकि उन्होंने क्वेश्चंस वही पूछे हैं जो मैप में दिया हुआ है. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ वेस्टिंग योर टाइम इन रीडिंग द क्वेश्चंस, ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द मैप कि कहाँ से जाके क्या आएगा और वहां से लेफ्ट जाके क्या आएगा, राइट जाके क्या आएगा. और उसके लिए भी मेक अ स्टोरी इन योर हेड कि अगर आप सपोज करो अगर आपने अपने घर से किसी रेस्टोरेंट या किसी कॉलेज का रास्ता समझाना है तो आप कैसे रास्ता समझाओगे. तो उसी तरह आप जो मैप है उसका रास्ता आपको वो याद करना है एंड यू हैव टू कीप इट इन योर माइंड. सो दिस इज द वे ऑफ डूइंग मैप. अगर आप क्वेश्चंस पढ़ते रह जाओगे so that's of no use, क्योंकि क्वेश्चंस तो you have to understand the map, कि अगर हम सीधा जाएंगे तो पार्क है, लेफ्ट जाएंगे तो स्कूल है, फिर वहां से राइट जाएंगे तो रिवर है. So this is how we do the map questions. So next time please try to use this approach and I think it will be beneficial for you. And also apart from this please try to, अगर आपको मैप के क्वेश्चंस में प्रॉब्लम आ रही है तो आप मैप के क्वेश्चंस को ज्यादा प्रैक्टिस करो, क्योंकि once we do a particular thing a lot of times, so it becomes easier for you and we become used to of doing that thing. So if you are facing the problem in map and MCQ, so try to solve those questions more number of times. Okay, so yes, anybody else? और when so जो difficulty level है उसका जो level है वो बढ़ता जाता है from section 1 to section 4. So you see section 1 is very easy और जब हम section 4 पे पहुंचते हैं it becomes little difficult. और मैंने आपको जो अप्रोच बताई थी कि आप फोकस करो ऑडियो को समझने में, और ऐसा भी होगा कि जो उन्होंने बीच में 2-3 लाइंस दे दी हैं, बोली हैं उन्होंने, दे आर ऑफ नो यूज, तो ऐसा भी होगा. So you try to understand the audio please. This is the approach that we use for listening. So do not go for keywords कि इन्होंने ये कीवर्ड ऑडियो में बोल दिया, ये क्वेश्चन में है तो यही आंसर होगा. So मैंने आपको रीडिंग और राइटिंग के लिए भी यही टिप दी थी और लिसनिंग के लिए भी यही टिप दूंगी, that don't go for the keywords. Try to understand the audio. Try to understand the question. I know we don't have much time in the listening, but you have to just listen and understand. आपको सुन के बस समझना है what are they trying to tell you. Anybody else जिसने मार्क्स काउंट कर लिए हूँ अपने?
27 मैम.
Okay, so तरुण आपको कहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम आई?
MCQ ते मैप दे विच.
ओके, मैप का मैंने आपको बता दिया कि आपको कौन सी ट्रिक अप्लाई करनी है. जो एमसीक्यू है, सो एमसीक्यू के क्वेश्चंस मैंने देखे. सो एमसीक्यू के जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो बहुत क्लोज होते हैं, दे आर वेरी क्लोज, because then you get to know कि all the options can be correct because they are so close. So what you can do in this case also the approach is same. अगर आपने ऑडियो बहुत ध्यान से सुनी है, so there is no scope of confusion, चाहे वो ऑप्शंस कितने भी क्लोज हो. एंड आई ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड कि कई बार ऑप्शंस बहुत कंफ्यूजिंग हो जाते हैं, चाहे वो आइल्स के एमसीक्यूज हैं, चाहे वो कोई भी कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम के एमसीक्यू हैं. सो द ऑप्शंस कैन बी क्वाइट कंफ्यूजिंग, एंड इफ यू लूज 1 or 2 मार्क इन दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन, दैट्स अंडरस्टैंडेबल. बट जो बेसिक अप्रोच है कोई भी क्वेश्चन करने की, is you have to very carefully understand what are they saying. So suppose if I have अगर मैं आपको बोलती हूँ कि I have done my bachelor's degree from so college, तो so this is very, अगर आप उस बात को समझ लोगे, if you're understanding what I'm saying, I'm talking about myself and I'm telling about my bachelor's degree and I'm telling you the name of the college. So what is the scope of confusion here? There is no scope of confusion here. So why there is no scope of confusion? Because you have listened to the audio very carefully. So my tip to you is please listen to the audio very carefully. If you have understood what they are saying, then you will not do any mistake. So, so most of our students are facing the problem in MCQs and map. So I would suggest you all that before our next listening session, please try to do these type of questions and come up with your queries in the next listening session. Yes, anybody else who did the who have checked the answers? So shall I stop sharing? I think all of you have done it. Okay. So anything else that you want to ask about listening?
मैम YouTube पर स्पीड जो है वो इंक्रीज करने से कोई फायदा होता है?
देखो, अभी जो मैंने आपको ये टेस्ट दिया था, ये बिल्कुल सेम पैटर्न में था जो आपका जैसे आपका आईएलटीएस का एग्जाम आएगा, तो आपको जब एग्जाम ही ऐसे आना तो आप प्रैक्टिस उस तरह से ही करो. सो दिस वाज द सेम पैटर्न ऑफ योर एग्जाम. सो इतना ही आपको टाइम मिलेगा बीच में, तो अगर आप इसी पैटर्न में प्रैक्टिस करोगे तो आपको वहां जाकर कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं होगी और ना ही वो आपके लिए कोई नई चीज होगी, बिकॉज यू हैव बीन प्रैक्टिसिंग इन दिस पैटर्न ओनली. So try to practice in the same pattern as it has to come in your exam.
Okay, ma'am.
And any other confusion you have? Any other problem? एंड प्लीज ट्राई टू डू मोर मैप क्वेश्चंस. वैसे जो मैप के क्वेश्चंस हैं वो दे आर नॉट वेरी कॉमन. वो बहुत, इट्स नॉट कि वो उनकी जो फ्रीक्वेंसी है पेपर में आने की, दैट्स नॉट दैट लार्ज. तो वो बहुत अनकॉमन टाइप के क्वेश्चंस हैं, बट इफ इट कम यू शुड बी एबल टू सॉल्व इट. तो अगर आप मैप को, इफ यू आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग द मैप वेरी केयरफुली, सो यू विल नॉट डू एनी क्वेश्चन रॉन्ग. क्योंकि एक मैप ही ऐसा है जिसमें या तो वो सही है या वो गलत है. सो दीज आर जस्ट डायरेक्शंस. So you have to just understand the directions. If you are good with directions, so it will be very easy for you. So once try to practice the map questions. तो जो चीज आपको डिफिकल्ट लग रही है, try to practice that thing more. तो उसको छोड़ने की बजाय try to practice that thing more. And I think it will become easier for you by the time. Okay, so I would recommend you all to practice the questions that you face difficulty in, and please come up with your queries in the next listening session. And till then, please stay tuned to our Telegram channel, जहाँ आपको सारी updates मिलती रहेंगी about the sessions that are happening. And tomorrow we have a speaking session, so we'll have a mock test. So everyone, please join. And also please stay updated on what's happening with the immigration process. So because the restrictions have changed, the travel restrictions have changed. So please join our Telegram channel and you will get all the updates there. So, okay. So ma'am, can you please drop the Telegram link once again? There are some students who joined late. Okay, so there's a Telegram channel link in the description box. So you can click on that and you will get the links of the sessions. And we also have the grammar sessions happening daily. So please do join them and it will be really beneficial for you. So I hope today's session helped you a lot, and please join tomorrow's session as well. So have a nice day, everyone. Bye. Thank you.